this will be just a short glimpse into the life of a remarkable man, of his dedication to the Jewish people and the State of Israel, many aspects of which were carried out through programs that he initiated at the Hebrew University. His leadership in the American Jewish community and the special friendship he developed over many decades with the top leaders in Israel who consulted with him on a regular basis were part of his commitment for Jewish continuity, and this was based on building a strong and thriving Israel.
First of all, I want you to know that I have very, very poor eyesight, and I can't see in the distance. I also have an impairment in my hearing. I'm also an expert on flattery. And I've heard a lot of nice things today about me. Some are true, some may be true, some could be true.
His close friendship and admiration for Golda, for example, were expressed on many occasions. At the massive dinner for Israel Bonds in New York, a demonstration of his leadership.
And before I introduce our distinguished guests, I want to repeat something that she said 20 years ago when Israel Bonds were first launched. When she was asked by a very prominent member of the American Jewish community, what is the security that you have to offer to these bonds? And Golda said the security that we have to offer is our children. And it's interesting that those very children that she offered as security to the Israel Bonds are today the boys that are manning the front in the Sinai and the Golan Heights, the Jordan Valley, on the Lebanese frontier. And not only are they the security for the Bonds, they are the security for Israel and the security for all of the Jewish people. And it is now my pleasure to present the voice and the heart and the soul and the spirit of the Jewish people, Her Excellency Golda Meir.
What was unique about this man? What made him such an inspiring leader? Sam Rothberg was driven by a fierce sense of urgency, impatient with side issues and small talk, and all this began from the moment he stood at the fence of the DP camp in 1947 and saw and felt the tragedy of the Jewish children huddled there, the survivors of the terrible years of the Holocaust. As he himself said, "One incident made me change my whole life. It was a place called Rosenheim in Germany, where I was supposed to have lunch with some 25, 26 orphan children, aged 5, 6, or 7 years old. My eyes began to blur, because I had 2 children at that time, my own 2 children, and I just could not stop tears coming out of my eyes. And I decided then and there I was going to do everything that I could to see that this never happens to my children. From this point on, everything I did, and I threw myself in wholeheartedly into everything, I did for myself, not for anybody else, not for the UJA, not for Israel, not for the bonds. I did this with a vow to myself, because every day I had to look myself in the mirror. Shaving in the morning, I watched and looked in the mirror. I would do everything to see that this never happens to our children. This is when I threw myself wholeheartedly into this work." In his 13 years as chairman of the Board of Governors of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and this was the period when it experienced the most dynamic growth in its history, that term coincided with the years following the reunification of Jerusalem in the Six-Day War. The program of constructing and returning to the university's original campus on Mount Scopus was the high point of his tenure as chairman of the board and with Abe Harman as president. He called a special meeting of the board in 1969 to approve the 5-year plan that he and Abe Harman had drawn up for the rebirth of Scopus. And the 5 years became 7 and eventually 13. He was very gratified that during his term of office, the university completed the resurrection of Scopus, and this also with his help of his friend Lou Boyer. He himself spearheaded vital new fundraising projects of continuing significance. The Wall of Life, which has encouraged large-scale endowment for academic projects from donors all over the world, was his idea. He created the Honorary Alumni Association, which attracted prestigious support for the university from many new donors in the community. He created the Golda Meir Fellowship Program.
During my life, and especially during my term as the president of the Hebrew University, I had the fortune to know some very impressive people I really admired. But there is nobody like Sam Rothberg. Sam Rothberg was one of the most impressive people I've ever met. When I think about Sam, the term that seems the most appropriate to me is pillar. Sam was the pillar of any institution or any activity that he was involved with. Immediately when he adopted a cause, he became the central figure of that particular cause or that particular activity.
He played the major role in the creation of 2 research institutes, the Hubert H. Humphrey Center for Cancer Research and Experimental Medicine and the Harry S. Truman Center for the Advancement of Peace.
We are assembled here to honor a great American president, a great world leader, a great friend and benefactor of the Jewish people, and above all, a great architect and defender of world peace.
The project which gave him the greatest personal satisfaction was the establishment of the School for Overseas Students at the Hebrew University. He initiated the concept of his school both as a stimulus to Aliyah and for the enrichment of Jewish life in the diaspora. He said, "I hope that thousands of overseas students will come to Israel to study, and that some will come back for graduate studies and settle here." Another project so important to him was aid to disadvantaged students. He played the leading role in expanding the Center for Pre-Academic Studies. When Sam Rothberg entered office, the center numbered not more than 50 students, and he enabled it to expand its student population 20-fold.
And here tonight, my friends, are the representatives of the larger family, that is the world, warm, large family of Jewish people. And now I'm addressing myself to this family. We of diaspora Jewry have helped to make this possible through our support over the many years for the State of Israel and for the university, and with its program such as that of the Center for Pre-Academic Studies. It is now up to us, my friends, to provide these students with the full support they need in order to continue to achieve. It is we who must pave the way for the younger brothers and sisters. The brothers and sisters who are still at home and who, as a result of their brothers' achievements, are beginning to think and to dream of educational achievements of their own. These are the children who will now follow and in whom the hope of the future lies. Thank you very, very much.
I look in front of me over here, and I see the gentleman that brought me into the Hebrew University. I see Professor Benjamin Mazar. I see out there Teddy Kollek. I see Harvey Kruger sitting there. And then at the end over there, I see Zena Harmon, whose late husband, Abe, came to me in 1962, after I was already involved with the American Friends of the Hebrew University, to impress on me the importance. He said, now, Sam, you can really do something if you want to for Israel. The two most important things that I got the greatest satisfaction out of in all my years with the university was the pre-academic program and the School for Overseas program. This is a great university. There's not another place like it in the world. It's got a Friends organization that's a wonderful organization. I claim it has to be cranked up every now and then, but that's besides the point. It's got a faculty. It's got the finest in the world of everything. This is the University of the Jewish people.
At the dedication of the new Lou Boyer building for the Rothberg International School, and this was to be Sam Rothberg's last public appearance on Mount Scopus, he shared some of his most personal thoughts about his life and motivation with a very large and distinguished gathering which included the now President of Israel, Shimon Peres, and Sam's colleague and mentor, Teddy Kollek.
We are dedicating today a building, and we are recognizing the commitment and the devotion of many individuals whose names will be forever associated with the Rothberg International School at the Hebrew University. We are paying tribute to the idea, but now we are paying tribute to the man responsible for that idea, the man whose vision, commitment, hard work, sometimes facing tremendous obstacles, has made this idea a reality. I'm talking, of course, about our beloved Sam Rothberg. I think we should be recognizing also the contribution of Gene Rothberg. And because Gene has given us a university as the State of Israel's Jewish people the dearest gift she could give, and that's Sam. And his building is named after Lou Boyer, Zichrono Livracha, Sam Rothberg's great friend and partner.
I can see here in the room at least two persons who remind us of the War of Independence, and that is Teddy Kollek and Sam Rothberg. And I'm thinking about Sam. He has devoted his life to many things, but basically to three. To enable Israel to build an infrastructure in economic terms. Wouldn't it be for the bonds, Israel wouldn't be what we are today. I think that would the Arabs do for the Palestinians what the American Jewish community did for Israel, we wouldn't have a Palestinian problem today. That we have to understand. Secondly, we have to understand that the Hebrew University preceded the State of Israel. Jewish people always want to be wise before they become independent. Sam, Jean, I really want to congratulate for a wonderful devotion and life you gave to our country, you gave to Jerusalem, you gave to this university, and you gave to the future. Thank you very much.
I learned very early in life the importance of doing things. It was about 70 years ago at a meeting, a board meeting of a company of which I worked for, also happened to be the place where we got married, that an argument arose about a contribution. Now this was all Goyim. And so one of the gentlemen got up and said, and he pointed a finger And he said, I wanted you to know that there are no pockets and shrouds. And by pockets and shrouds, and those of you who don't know English, that means there are no pockets and tachichim. You can't take it with you. And this has been my philosophy. My philosophy and my wife, Jean, sitting over here, during all of the years since 1943, when I started working, helping Jews all over the world, she was busy raising a family. Hardly anybody in the community knew that there was a Sam Rothberg. They thought I was a myth. All my children who graduated from high school, from universities, I never had time to attend one commencement. I was always away. She raised the family. She raised the children. She made it possible for me to do the things that I did. I didn't have time to look for art. I didn't have time for any of the other things, nice things that people like. All I had time for was to work. And I worked hard. It's important to me, and I learned early again, that you do things for others, and you do it, it's a two-way street. You do something for me, and when you come to me to do something for you, I have to reciprocate. And if I don't reciprocate, that's the end of a beautiful friendship. People do things for people. And Teddy was also a good teacher and teaching me that. You have to work and do things. We live a very, very simple life. And all of our resources that we have will go, the bulk of our resources will go for things in Israel. And it will go as much as possible during our lifetime. Nobody's going to give my money away. I'm not going to leave the money for others to give away. I'm going to give it away while I'm alive, while I see where it's going. And she agrees with me. And as long as I live, and as long as my wife lives, and we'll live as long as we can, as long as the good Lord permits us, we will continue to do things. And we will do things that we think are needed, and think that are right, and think that are important. Many will be for the university, others will be for other things, but all of it will be for Israel. All of my children and all of my family know this. They are provided for. Heidi, my daughter Heidi, stand up, Heidi. Stand up, Heidi. Heidi is already very actively involved and getting more and more involved. And one of these days she's going to tell me, why the hell don't you sit down and leave me alone and let me do my own things? But I still try to do the best that I can and will continue to do the best that I can to the end of my days. Thank you very, very much.
This, then, is the legacy of the man of vision, of dedication and tenacity, who was such a remarkable innovator. It will be said of him that he left this world with an Israel and a Hebrew university better and stronger as a result of his inspiring leadership.